Really happy to have you join us again in our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast. We've been working for a few weeks here on the issue of worship, and we've looked at the life of worship, kind of the definition of worship, the different God that we worship. Not a lot on that, but we spent some time last week looking at God. We want to make sure we're worshiping the true God and not some figment of our imagination or whatever. But now we're going to start spending the rest of our time together on this subject of worship with actually the acts of worship themselves. How do we worship God? What does that look like? And we're going to turn to scriptures primarily to discuss that. I'm going to look at Psalm 8. The Psalms are just filled with praise and worship of God. So we'll spend a lot of time, I think, on the Psalms. But let me describe worship as someone else has described it. It's simply wonder. It's amazement. It's looking at the marvelous nature of God. It's admiration of God. All these would be descriptions or whatever of what worship is like. And so it's the really examining and appreciating and speaking out and so forth to the actual act of the worship of God. Psalm 8 gives us a wonderful diagram of that, a wonderful picture, a model, you might say, of what it would be like to worship God. One of the things I like about Psalm 8 is it's very short. It's not long. It's not deep in the sense of a huge amount of theology. It's just clear. And it's a worshiper. It's someone worshiping God. It's probably a Psalm of David. And he is simply worshiping God out in nature, it would appear, something that I enjoy, and I'm sure a lot of you enjoy. Just to see the handiwork of God draws us to want to worship Him. And so we see that in Psalm 8. Let's take a look. And I'm using now the Legacy Standard Bible that you'll see a little difference in your translation depending on which one you use. But it says, "O Yahweh," which is a very consistent translation of the word for that we usually say is Jehovah or Lord in all caps. "O Yahweh, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth, who displays your splendor above the heavens. From the mouth of infants and nursing babes, you have established strength, because of your adversaries, to make the enemy and the revengeful cease." And then he says, "When I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have established, what is man that you remember him, and the son of man that you care for him? You have made him a little lower than the angels, and you crown him with glory and majesty. You make him to rule over the works of your hands, and you have put things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the animals of the field, the birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea, whatever passes through the paths of the sea. O Yahweh our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth." So we see a number of features in this short and wonderful psalm. We see him simply praising the Lord for his splendor, for who he is, how majestic is your name in all the earth. But also he praises God for what God has done, the splendor of the heavens. You have displayed the splendor of yourself in your creation and that which you've created. Children, infants, all creation can proclaim the glory and the wonders of God. Even the enemies of God will one day bow before him. As David looks around at the creations that's around him, the works of God's hands, the stars, the moon, all these things, he looks at these things and his breath is almost taken away at the wonder, the glory, the marvelous creation that this marvelous, wonderful Lord has made. And so then he thinks about us. Why, Lord, do you even care about us, given the greatness of yourself? But he does. And that's all part of his splendor as well. It's one of the reasons that David is worshiping him in such fullness. He ends the psalm by simply saying, "O Yahweh, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth," the same way he began the psalm. He is ending the psalm as well. And so he looks around him, he looks at what God has done, he looks at what God is and who he is, and he is in awe. And so he worships God for God, who God is, and for what God has done. We should all worship the Lord in that way. What a model this little psalm is. I hope you use it as you think about worshiping God.